Hello, everybody. Great to see you. Thanks for joining. And especially as we're in summertime, I really appreciate I'm Claire. Hey. Some people I haven't seen for a long time. Some people more recently. Hey, Karina. Hey, Jill. We've had loads of people sign up, which is awesome. So I know quite a lot of people are going to catch the replay. And so let's just give it a few more minutes for people to come in. So if you need to grab a pen and a paper, if you want to get a cup of tea, water, now's your chance. Light some incense, get a candle going, whatever's going to make you feel nurtured and comfortable. And I'm going to do my best to end by 9, so we're on time. But if anyone has to go and pop out for any reason, don't worry, you can get the recording automatically. Right, here we go, more people. So what I'd love to get us started is if you could put in the chat why you're here and where you are. So there's I in the sort of the description about what we were going to be covering today. Obviously, it's called Not About the Money, but that's maybe an intriguing title. What is it about then, Helen? But I spoke about relationships and work and finance. So I'm curious, what drew you to be here, even if it might be my mate told me, or I've been following your content for ages and I wanted to come and check it out, or whatever it might be. Ah, thanks, Joe. Yeah, it's been ages, Joe. I've seen you for a while. Yeah, a couple of years. Okay, money goes out rather quickly. That was very spontaneous, Kate. It's like 10 seconds ago. But a bit like money, right? Like intuition moves fast, money moves fast. Money is an energy, likes to move fast. It can come in quickly, it can go out quickly. Change in all aspects. Yeah, for sure. And those of you who are just joining now, hi Tim, I'd love you to put into the chat what drew you here and whereabouts you are so we can get a vibe. And then we'll make a start in about 30 seconds. So it's always helpful to think about what your intention might be for this time together. So when I'm asking questions, you can make it relevant for you. And it might start popping thoughts and things you haven't covered. But if you have a kind of core, like, I really need to find a better friendship group who suit me now, or I really need to leave my job because I can't bear it another day, or I need a better relationship with money, or the state of the world is scaring me and I don't know what to do about it, or all of the above. To learn and open new insights in myself. Great. Great. It's interesting. Fulfillment is super important to you. And I'm guessing then if you're here, that's because you're not feeling super fulfilled in all areas. State pension kicks in. Great. Develop and grow your business. Maybe get more organized around money in it. Fantastic. Free from needing government support. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. More clear about what brings fulfillment. Okay. definitely covering that because it's different for all of us. It's fulfillment is a bit like the word success, like it means different things to each of us. You know, you can look at certain people and they might think they're really successful, they might perceive we think they're really successful, they don't feel successful, or vice versa. Um, and what are you curious as to what symbolizes? Is that success or fulfillment or money, Ruth? Okay. Right. Let's make a start. So you don't have to have your cameras on. Money. Okay. Um, and someone in the arts, income is erratic and low paid. I hear you. I spent most of my life as an actor alongside coaching people. Um, great. And we're just along. Oh, you're now in, okay, now in Wales. Fabulous. So, my mind, but I'm in Wales in a couple of weeks. Let me say that, and then I can go on to what I was going to say. Right, let's get started. Sounds like you're all in the right place. The reason I'm here, and do put your cameras on if you can. It's helpful for me to see faces and see how things are landing. If you don't want to, no worries, but it's encouraged. And as we go through, you can put questions in the chat, but there's going to be an official Q&A at the end, or in about 8:30 we'll do a Q&A. So then I will be able to answer things more clearly than if I'm going through. Although if I catch something that makes sense for me to answer in the flow, then I will. To let you know that this stands on its own, there's absolutely no obligation to continue this journey with me. I want to get this out there. I want this to help people. And if you do want to continue the journey from today, I'm going to be sharing how the course works, if that feels like a good flow for you, if it feels like a good fit. And there's going to be an offer specially for you joining today. So, and that includes you on the replay. So stick around to the end. And what I will say, first of all, is I'm here to hear the things that I wish I'd heard 20 years ago. The things that when I was struggling as an actor, broke. But also when I was not as broke, but it's difficult because I was still self-employed and I was so scared of money and so constantly chasing the next job, chasing the next piece of income, chasing like attention from the next boyfriend, that I never felt successful. I never felt fulfilled. Any highs were really short lived and often were fueled by substances or habits or addictions or routines that gave me a temporary distraction from my current main state of how I lived, rather than feeling nourished by life, that I could trust myself, that I could trust the world, that I could trust life, that I had the support I needed. um, and I wasn't raised with a religion. I wasn't raised with a framework that helped me make sense of the world or myself. And so, having gone from many kind of forms of rock bottom through physical illness and diagnosis that I were told were lifelong with no sort of end in sight, just take the pills forever, that left me with many complications. Um, you know, parents, bless them, who left me with a sort of legacy of helpful things around money, like you'll never get a mortgage, rich people are bad, poor people are good. Lots of things that they were brought up with and they hadn't questioned and didn't help me in life, mainly because I thinking a load of people you don't know are bad just because of their income or not. And a but deeper than that, a deep sort of desolation and fury at life. And I tried to take my life 3 times. It's to do with, some deeper things that there's no need to go into here. Some of you know my story. But where I was to where I am now is the reason I do what I do. And it's as soon as I found that there was a way to be in the world that was inside out generated rather than outside in, just changed the game. And made me passionate about sharing rather than feeling like I was constantly in survival and needing rescuing, to being like, hang on a second, I've got more than enough energy, information, resources, money to help people. And that's now the mission I'm on. And I partner with a charity. So the causes I believe in can go further. So that's why I'm here. The teaching that we're going to look at today is the 6 human needs that are different from your values, that are different from ideology or ethics. These are the 6 human needs that I've learned about through the work of Tony Robbins, who's worked with millions of people around the planet in every country on the earth, about what drives our behavior. And I'm going to talk about them in terms of each area of our life, because we are always, everything we do, whether you think you're self-sabotaging or, why am I doing that? Like, why am I getting up and running a 5K 7 days a week and then at 7 p.m. ordering takeaway again and eating loads of cake? Like, hang on, how can I be focused on one goal in the morning and completely someone else in the evening? Why am I doing this? 12 years later, why am I doing this? Or it might look like, impulsive spending, or I'm going to start saving, and you keep on rinsing the pot on stuff that isn't moving your life forward. These habits are all, or sabotage patterns are all driven by our needs. And when they're unconscious, there's very little we can do about them. It's why we keep looping. But once we become aware of how we're meeting those needs, and then we can meet them in a more conscious way, a way that makes us feel better about ourselves and about life, that's when we can change the game. And, I think 80% of the work is getting conscious about what's running us. And it's like if the car, you're on the motorway and like there's suddenly like smoke coming out the engine, has happened to me once. Like, if you know it's because you haven't got enough petrol, you've got a little thing on the dashboard going, you need petrol, then you know what you have to do to solve the problem. If there's no information and there's just loads of smoke, you don't know what's going on, right? So if this is making sense, give me a thumbs up, give me a one in the chat, and let's look at these 6 needs. So great, thanks very much. Glad we're all there. So the first need, and thumbs, fabulous. The first need is the most primal. It's the one that kicks in when we are feeling the most fight or flight or freeze or fawn stage of where we're at. So this is the need for certainty. When governments want to control people or regimes want to control people, they create a lot of chaos and uncertainty so that they can then give a solution of this is the answer. And people, when they feel very scared and uncertain, will cling to somebody who is certain, right? If you think about, I don't know, you're in a big crowd of people and something starts going wrong and someone shouts the exit's this way, you follow that person because they are clear and they are certain. And so when we understand our need for certainty, it's our most primal, it's like our reptilian brain. So there are all of our 6 needs, there's no hierarchy, and this is the first one because it's the most primal, but there are positive ways of meeting the need of certainty. It's not a right or a wrong. There are negative ways of meeting it, and there are neutral ways of meeting it. So a positive way to meet the need of certainty would be like your morning routine, right? If your morning routine is something that is like nutritious and healthy for your body, like maybe you, I don't know, you pray or you journal or you have affirmations, you do your green juice, your supplements, you go to the gym, you tell 4 people you love them, you set your goals for the day, right? Like something like that, or whatever it might be for you. Stroking your cat, sitting in contemplation, like having a stretch, giving your partner a kiss, pinch on the butt, all the things that kind of like start your day in the right way. If that's your routine, that gives you certainty. Another way that we can find certainty, which is maybe unhelpful, is that we keep eating sugar because we know that when we eat sugar, we have instant gratification. our blood, we start to eat, all our blood rushes to our stomach. We start to breathe more deeply. Often, when we're in stress or we're in panic, we start breathing really shallowly. So we have the, or, like me and white wine back in the day. Like I knew if I was stressed, if I was feeling like out of control, if I had a glass of white wine, it would start to relax my muscles. I'd start to be happier. Till I wasn't. Um, and it's a short-term win, long-term fail. So when you were drinking as much as I was, but that gave me a certainty of in the moment it's going to work and I'm going to feel better. A neutral way of meeting the need for certainty is something like doing something out of habit, even though you don't enjoy it. So maybe you have something that used to serve you and you're just going through the motions with it. Or I don't know, like maybe you're part of a running group. Um, or a dog walking group. You join a dog walking group because you want to meet people and it's giving you exercise. So you go out there and that's how you do what you do every Monday. But you don't like the people in the dog walking group and you're not a big fan of dogs. So it's giving you that routine, but it's not setting you up for a more enjoyable life, a bigger sense of fulfillment. So take a moment now and journal for 30 seconds. Just make a bullet point list. What comes to mind? How do you meet your need for certainty? And if anyone wants to share anything in the chat, go ahead. I don't know what reawakening is. A positive way of being in nature? Great. Absolutely. Morning practice of meditation. The way that certainty can show up with money is in a positive way, like setting aside a certain amount to save every time you get paid, or investing, dollar cost averaging if you're into stocks and shares, like you buy a certain amount, whether the practice is up or down. That would be certainty. Uh, but an unhealthy way of meeting certainty with money would be hoarding money. So being anxiously attached to money, which is how I used to be, which was wanting to know the cost of everything, spending, 3 hours searching coupon sites and different links to buy something that had like, that was going to cost a fiver anyway. Um, to make sure I had the certainty that I absolutely wasn't wasting money or spending money when I could have got a deal. Like that kind of certainty was corrosive. It reinforced the feeling of me feeling like I was in lack and I didn't have enough. A neutral way of meeting certainty is maybe you have a regular paycheck, but you don't like your job. You've outgrown your job, but the certainty keeps you there. People who I often work with, clients who are in corporate work who want to set up their own thing because they don't like their job anymore. They haven't liked it for a long time, but the term often used is golden handcuffs. They feel like their salary cannot be matched doing something they love, so they stay tied for the fund, but at the same point, they're killing their life force. I've helped many people actually make more money and leave and do something they love. So, yeah, essential oils, absolutely smells, things that get into your senses, get your nervous system changed. If you know something that works for you, absolutely that can give you certainty. Okay, the next need is the opposite. Because when we have so much certainty, we get bored, right? If you knew what you were going to eat every day for the rest of your life, it would be not that exciting, right? So let's think about the need for uncertainty or okay, great, no problem, Arati. Um, you'll get the replay for this if the signal's not good. So just check it's your signal, not mine. Can everyone else give me a wave or a thumbs up that if this signal's okay? It is. Okay, great. So the need for uncertainty or the need for variety. So I could never understand why people would go on holiday to like the same place every year. Like we always go to Benidorm, we stay in this hotel, we always go to the Irish pub, and we go like that kind of way of holidaying. I didn't understand why people would choose to do that. But now I understand it's because they have a big driver for certainty, whereas I have a bigger driver for uncertainty or variety, which is why I've never had a full-time job. I've always been self-employed. I've always run my own businesses. I've always loved being the boss. And some people say, well, how can you live with the uncertainty of money? But sometimes that can be stressful, but I've enjoyed I'm driven by that uncertainty. I prefer the adventure. Like I'm the kind of person who many times I book a flight 4 days before I leave. I book somewhere to stay for the first night on the way to the airport, and then I get there with a backpack and I see what happens and I toss a coin about, which direction I travel in. I like that kind of uncertainty. And yet most people, when you say, do you like surprises? They say yes, but then you say, do you like problems? And they say no, because problems are uncertainty, right? I came home, I did a lot of driving recently, and I got a big fine. And it's like, if you don't pay it, it's going to go to 370 quid for going through a tunnel. And I didn't know that you had to pay to go through this tunnel. But like that kind of uncertainty, I'm like, I could do without. But it's the same thing, right? These obstacles or problems or surprises, these are the things that keep our understanding of what's going to happen in our day in flux and in change. And this is also why some people can chase drama, even if they think they're doing it unconsciously. They create arguments or they create volatility because they're looking for that uncertainty. And so if you can but look at your life and think, actually, where am I self-sabotaging? Where am I suddenly feel like I have enough money and then I end up going to the casino, or I take all my mates out and I shout the dinner. And okay, I might feel generous in the moment, but afterwards, like this is a habit that keeps happening. It's often, it's quite like it goes deeper when it's about money because it's also about energy and how much energy we're used to holding. But there are or it can also be like, you're doing really well on a health plan and then you sabotage yourself because you go back to wanting the need for certainty, or the new identity doesn't fit. So you change what was uncertain and making it certain and go back to what was known. So think in your life, where do you meet your need for uncertainty in a healthy way and in an unhealthy way? And with money, this could look like going to a casino, like an unhealthy way, but variety in a healthy way with money might look like not just having a few investments that are maybe more risky. Maybe you have a little bit in crypto, but it has the potential to grow much more. But you're doing it consciously. You're not doing it with a screw it attitude. You're doing it with an understanding that, okay, I'm going to have this much in the bank. Maybe I'm going to invest in some property, or I'm going to start saving this amount each month, whether that be for something that's coming from the government or something that you're putting aside. And a habit that I have had since even before I thought I could afford to save was I put 20% of everything that I ever got paid aside to save, because I didn't feel like I had anyone who would ever bail me out. So I always saved 20%, even when I was on minimum wage jobs, 0 hours contract waitressing, struggling to pay the rent in London. I always saved 20%. So that's certainty. But then uncertainty, I did go into crypto in 2017 when no one knew where it was, apart from a few people in the field in caftans. I was like, what do you mean it's not money? But I don't understand. You want me to put how much rent? Ah. Right. Okay. Um, so welcome to those of you who are just joining us, talking about the 6 human needs that drive our behavior and making them conscious. And so if as you're thinking about how you meet your needs for variety or uncertainty, if you want to drop a couple in the chat, great. Great, yeah. So metals and crypto is more sensible than like um Amazon or what's that site? Tembo or Sheen or those like, weird ads that you get on Instagram when you're suddenly like I think Dawn French has a skit about them, like you only buy the straw with turns into glasses when you're drunk on Instagram at 3 a.m. Never normally be buying these things. Right. Any other examples of uncertainty? Riding fast horses. Great, exactly. Like a sense of adventure. Like I'm, I've done bungee jumps and jumping out of things and planes, and I'm just about to go on an adventure holiday on Wednesday with 400 people from around the world, and it's all been planned, and I have no idea. None of us are told what we do until we get there. So that is definitely meeting my uncertainty needs. And it's interesting in the group chat seeing people who have a bigger driver for certainty going, "It's what this is, and this detail, and what food is that?" And ugh. um, there's lots of uncertainty in the arts, absolutely. And it's also that drive to creative, for the creative impulse to not have a solid answer. And uncertainty, if you know the work of, I want to say Chris McGilchrist, who talks about the left and right hemispheres of the brain. The left hemisphere of the brain lives in binary. It lives in right and wrong, yes and no. I vote for this, so I'm pro this, or I'm against that, or this is healthy and this is unhealthy, and this very rigid thought form, which we can all have at times. And then the right hemisphere of the brain is yes and. Well, yes, and this cake might not be might be calorie dense and not very nutritious, but it's going to make me, feel delicious every once in a while and enjoy life. And I can then go to the gym or whatever it might be. Yes, I can, save hard, work hard, invest wisely, and I can go and splurge on a holiday and have an awesome time. Um, it's that inclusive brain, but it's less logical. And so it's what is maybe creatives have and have followed, and people in corporate, and I'm being very binary here, I'm using my left brain, but in shorthand, I tend to work with people when I work with consultants and people in business. They tend to have been conditioned to prioritize their left brain as more favorable than their right brain because it's seen as more risky. But we need both. We need a balance of both. So, third human need is our need for love and connection. Now, love, sorry, no, that's wrong. I skipped one. Our third need, getting ahead of myself. I'm following the love bubble. The third need is our need for significance, which is interesting that it comes before love and connection. So, we all have the need for significance. And for some people, no names intended, that's the need to control or rule or be known by hundreds or millions of people. For some people, that means I want to be the biggest podcast in the world, or the New York Times #1 bestseller, or the Oscar winner, or, the Fortune 500 exec. And for other people, that means I want to leave a foundation behind me. I want to, or I want to be, or, maybe like I just need to be significant to my cat. As long as my cat misses me when I've been away, I feel good, right? I have that need for significance, but we all need to be significant to somebody. And has anybody just put a one in the chat if you had read the book, The Chimp Paradox? by Dr. Stephen Peters. It came out about 10 years ago. He's just written a sequel, Walk in the Jungle. Yes, great. Wonderful book. Wonderful book. I think it was actually longer than 10 years ago. He's doing the podcast round at the moment 'cause he's got a second book come out. So he describes our that we all have this chimp, which is this part of us that can self-sabotage, and it's a sort of inner nature aspect. Whereas I would say, and he talks about how some people's chimps need to have a tribe. And some people need a tribe of one, like my dad. He only needed my mum. He didn't need friends. He just needed my mum. And that was his certainty and that was his significance. Whereas my mum needed more than my dad. She needed a good group of friends. She needed significance from a lot of people. She liked to be the life and soul of the party. She was a teacher, she was head of drama. You know, she had a different need for significance and a much bigger bucket than my dad, right? But her chimp needed that. And so when I think of significance, I do think it correlates to our chimp as well, because, you know, we can get significance by holding a knife against someone's throat. They're not thinking about anybody else but us in that moment. But we can also get significance by donating a lot of money to charity or writing a book that changes people's lives. The author, Lisa, is Dr. Stephen Peters. Great. So if you think about significance, think about the way that you meet it in your own life, this need you have, in healthy and unhealthy ways. And I'm going to use some like gender broad brushstrokes here, but women often say what they really need in relationships is to be seen and listened to. And that's a need for significance. Like, I need to know that you value me and you get me and I'm here. You know, I'm not being taken for granted. And often when we're feeling insignificant, it's more like it's sort of like the opposite is true. How can we make other people feel significant, and then they by turn give us significance because they feel seen by us. So that's a way, if you feel like you're often meeting your need for significance in an unhealthy way, it's like, well, how can you do that need for someone else? And that can help. So with money, significance can look like the Gucci, the Prada, like the Maserati, like all on credit. And it's for the external view, where it's motivated by an extrinsic desire for change or glamour or attention, whereas sort of maybe a healthier way of meeting the need for significance might be having really deep, meaningful relationships with people who really love you, want to go the extra mile for you and turn up for you because of how much you give and support and love them, or how many people you help, right? How many people's lives you touch. And then I did a spoiler alert that the fourth human need is love and connection. And they come together, but they're not the same. So, love, as in unconditional love, most of us were not raised with unconditional love. We were raised with conditional love. But if you think about deep, true, meaningful love, that's very different to connection. So some people sacrifice, connection is more important to them. So they stay in relationships that no longer are loving because they meet their need for connection. Or when love is missing in our life, so maybe, you know, you have just gone through a divorce or a separation, you're going to lean into making a lot more friends because you're going to lean into connection because the love that you were used to being there has gone or you've moved away from. So it's the way some people have pets rather than people because it's still the human need for love and connection. It's why Some people who are in prison who've never had a same-sex relationship start to have same-sex relationships because there is this huge human need for love and connection, no matter who we are. Right? It's also, I'll come to that in the end. We help more help with the flow. So, what an unhealthy way of meeting connection or love and connection might be with money, might be spending lots of money on other people in order that they love you, or spending money on somebody on the opposite sex on a date with the or with the same sex if that's the way that you are attracted to, then in order for them to sleep with you, using money to manipulate it, but in a positive way, love and connection. It might look like holding an amazing dinner party and inviting all your favorite friends round and providing for them in that way. So, can you put in the chat a positive or an unhelpful way in which you meet love and connection? It's also like where people get sex addiction from. It's where, it's where porn can come from, porn addiction. It's often where we set when love is missing, connection is easier to get than love. Negative people pleasing, right? Because you want people to like you so they feel connected to you, but you end up feeling maybe out of integrity with yourself. Social media, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, and like it's also where stalkers sort of come from. That mentality is the need for connection. And if you have a lot of exposure to someone's life, then you feel like you know them, you feel like that you love them, or they're talking to me, all of that sort of stuff as well comes from this place. Right. But then so does all the beauty of wonderful relationships. Right. And when we feel like we don't have enough love or connection in our life, or maybe with source or something greater than our circumstance, we will often look to meet this need in quite unhealthy ways. Just like, well, I need to have be in, there are quite a few people say, I need to be in a relationship. So I'm just gonna like, oh, that's the third date. I can't deal with the dating apps. I'm just gonna do that because they're kind of like interested. So we'll just kind of settle here. Or alcohol, right? Or drugs or something that makes you feel connected, right? Even if it is to something inanimate or connected to a certain part of yourself that you only feel you can access with a substance. Choosing emotionally unavailable men, right? Exactly, because you're getting the connection without the fear of the love, depending what your connotations to love are. Absolutely. Okay, so the four, yes, absolutely. Because there you're really walking the line of what is connection and what is love and what that means to you and who's in what space. Right, absolutely. And I think, when you're in a position as a therapist, people often can project a lot onto you because if you're providing a lot of connection and meeting other needs. I remember when I first found a brilliant therapist, developed a crush on him, even though I knew he was gay. I was like I wasn't attracted to him, but I felt like he was showing me love in a professional way. And so I got, that deeply met a need that I was lacking in my life. Not meeting your own needs, right? So this is where the work starts to make sense Because once you can become aware of how you're not meeting your needs or which needs you're prioritizing, then you can start to go, okay, well, maybe the relationship I'm trying to, the relationship isn't meeting this need, or the friendship isn't meeting this need. How do I meet this need in a different way? And rather than being annoyed that my friend won't come on, abseiling holiday with me because she doesn't like the uncertainty, um, trust that I'm going to go and, binge watch a TV series with her that we've watched since we were kids, because that's the kind of friendship I have with her. But the need for uncertainty is I'm going to go and, go on that holiday with my self-employed musician friend who's really always up for doing something that's different. Um, great. So just to answer your point there, Kate, it's not necessarily about changing what you do, but finding a way to meet your needs in the role that you do, or the work you do, or tweaking your work, or changing the type of clients you have so you can meet those needs in different ways, or looking at a different area of your life to meet those needs rather than hoping it comes through work. So the four needs we've spoken about so far: uncertainty, certainty, love and connection, and significance. They are all the four needs of the personality, the ego, the human. The next two needs are the needs of the soul or the spirit. And again, there's not hierarchy, but people who tend to be less soulful or spiritually led focus more on those four. And people who are more spiritually led can focus more on the other two. And I've definitely experienced this in my life. When I had a spiritual awakening, for want of a better word, in 2014, I got really obsessed with with some of the others, and left a lot of certainty on the table. I didn't do anything that gave me any certainty for about 10 years. Uh, and that was a trigger for me to really look at healing my relationship with money. So, in a healthy way. The fifth need is our need for growth. And this is where often we can feel stuck, right? If we're no longer growing in a job, to use a cliche, we're stuck in middle management or midlife crisis, right? Often that displays as people feeling like they're not growing. So they go and get the motorbike or have the affair, or they do something that gives them a growth spurt. So this could look like a neutral way of meeting your need for growth might look like um, signing up to, I don't know, reading a self-help book, but never implementing what it's teaching. A positive way of growth might look like learning a new language, learning to play an instrument, moving so you grow as you have to develop a new community or a new way of being, changing careers, raising a child, right? There's a big lot of growth in that. A negative way, or becoming more financially stable and growing your wealth, or having a different relationship with money so you can grow it in that respect. And then an unhealthy way of growing could be doing things for significance or competition, or to feel morally superior to people, to lord your new language over people, um, to feel in some way that you're better than rather than just different to or expanded from. So, thinking for yourself, how are you currently meeting growth in your life? Great, starting new courses in body work, professional development, doing a course of the Thinking Society. And I think, one of the real benefits of things like YouTube and social media and is that we have such a bigger resource for growth. The problem then becomes implementation, because we can get so much knowledge. Then we don't know how to cultivate the wisdom from it. Great meditation. I don't know what kalimba is, but no, learning to knit. Great. Fantastic. Trying to look inward and understands your needs. Yeah, exactly. This is growth, right? You choosing to be here tonight rather than something else that you might always do on a Monday night. This is growth. Fantastic. Oh, African thumb piano. How exciting. Um, there goes some YouTube research. Uh, the next need is our final sixth need, and it's the need for contribution. And sometimes this, and this certainly has been true for me, only comes online when at least a majority of the other needs are met. Um, I'll come to that. If you, Alice, I'm just going to ask you to ask me that question at the end when I come to the Q&A. Hold it in your head. So the final need is the need for contribution. So that is being part of a bigger picture. I got a lot of clients come to work with me in 2020 in the lockdowns because they were very outwardly successful for society's standards, but they realized that they didn't particularly like the person they were married to. They didn't know their kids. Their job actually wasn't fulfilling them when they got off the hamster wheel and realized that they couldn't spend the money to distract themselves. And it was because they were not living in they not have a life that was contributing to others beyond the inner circle of the business or the inner circle of their family or friends. And so it is our search for meaning, or as Viktor Frankl wrote a brilliant book about it, like our search to be part of the bigger picture. And I didn't feel, as you know, so when I'm really struggling with my life and feeling very much in my pain body, in my still in my sort of traumatized state, and feeling very much in lack in life in all areas. I did very little to give because everything came, or I did, but it came always from that hoping that I would get. And so I did read to patients in stroke hospitals, but I was being paid slightly more than I was as a waitress. But I also had my need for contribution fulfilled because it was challenging work and I knew I was helping people. Um, but I wasn't naturally giving because I was stuck in lack and certainty for wanting to make sure I held on to all the little money I felt like I had. Whereas a big shift in my life is now I really get a lot of satisfaction from being able to support this charity that I really believe in, being part of massive fundraisers. On the anniversary of my mum's birthday in January this year, I was part of a group of people who spontaneously raised $1.2 million in 15 minutes to rescue trafficked girls in India. And it was just extraordinary. And I was so proud to be somebody who could then be in a space and put a lot of money on the table for something that was so worthy, right? And that feeling was I'm still enlivened by it now because it's knowing that even if like I were to lose everything I have tomorrow or you know might not wake up tomorrow, I've helped somebody get out of being trafficked, and I've since then run fundraisers and things and helped more girls. So it's that need for knowing that we're contributing to more than just ourselves, right? It's the argument behind there's no such thing as bingo for who can say the word philan philanthropy. There we go. Um, the argument behind there's no such thing as philanthropy because we all are having our need met when we're doing it. But that doesn't mean it's not amazing and it's not good, right? So, how can you meet your need for contribution in a positive way? Well, you can give money to charity, you can support, you can help your neighbor out when their garden needs cutting and they've got the flu. You can join a WhatsApp group for people who need help when, cat sitting or dog sitting. It's like the other day, my friend needed to borrow my car for a couple of days. Um, my instinct is to go, no, because it's safer. Like there's more certainty to know that it's only I drive it, right? But I also want to contribute to my friend. So I gave her the keys, and then I get to feel good because I'm the sort of person who helps people out when they need it. So put in the chat, how are you currently meeting your need to contribute? And in a negative way, this could look like, okay, being part of the PTA, but actually wanting to do it because you don't trust anybody else, so you want to take charge of everything else, or because you want to get your kid into a school, so you start volunteering at the church because you have a meaning behind that that is not actually altruistic. Right, great. Through teaching, helping neighbors, volunteering, prescribing. Great, really valuable work. So now these are the six needs. This is where it gets interesting. Um, Inspiring others, absolutely. Something becomes an addiction, and addictions can be healthy or unhealthy when it meets three or more needs. So if you say, like when I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, okay, it gave me certainty because I knew it was going to make me feel better instantly. It gave me uncertainty because I knew like I'd be a bit more reckless and it could be a bit more fun. It would be a bit more spontaneous and chaotic. It met my need for love and connection because I stopped feeling lonely, right? I felt more outgoing. It often made my need for significance because I felt more confident. There was not any growth happening, wasn't any contribution happening, but met four needs. So for many years, I used alcohol to survive life because it worked to meet four needs. Now I can meet those needs in healthier ways. I don't drink anymore, but it wasn't a kind of a hard edge thing. It fell away. Right, okay. And I think, so being a Samaritan and then stopping because it's too stressful, it's really important to know what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And we all have different sensitivities. And it's then working out, well, if that is a desire to contribute, how can you meet that need in a way that doesn't cost you? And welcome to those of you who just joined, sorry. So, six human needs, three or more is where addictions come from. So, if you're looking at where you're self-sabotaging, look at where, whatever pattern it is, alcohol, porn, drugs, food, scrolling, um, I don't know, avoidant behavior. Where are you, or not showing up for yourself, or not having consistency, or not self-promoting, or not saving? Or not spending, like where is there a pattern? And then which needs is it meeting? Because here's the thing, if you have a relationship, whether it be where you work, your business, your lover, your kids, or money, because we always have a relationship with money that meets your six needs, you're not going anywhere. If you have a partner who gives you the certainty that they're always going to be there for you, that they're not going to run off into the sunset, that they're not, you don't think they're secretly having an affair or lying to you. If you also have variety where you come home and there are surprises every now and then, or you're bought a surprise holiday, or maybe the sex is adventurous, or that there is an element of real spice and variety there. If they also make you feel significant and that there's no one else in the room and that you're $1 million to them and that and that you're loved and you feel connected and you've got enough in common to feel that there's a really deep bond there, even though you might have completely different interests. Kids can often bring in connection. um, Shared experiences, time spent together. Yes, of course, it's fine to jump on late, no problem. And then if you then have a relationship that also you grow, like maybe not together, but maybe you do personal development differently, or you have hobbies, or you decide to go traveling together, or take a year off together, or you have kids together, right? Also growth. And then if you maybe, I don't know, have a foundation or a charity, or you take it in turns, alternate years to raise money for a certain cause, or you are, you're feeling like your relationship is making a bigger difference to the world than just the two of you, that relationship isn't going to end. And it's the same in your workplace or your business. If you can design your business or your work to meet your six needs, if you can cultivate your relationship with money to meet your six needs, you're going to have a healthy relationship if you're meeting those needs in positive ways. Does that make sense? Give me a one or a thumbs up. Yeah, yeah. And the thing is that if we don't know we have these six needs, then we can think, oh, it's their fault, right? Or this just doesn't work for me. But that takes our power away, right? That disempowers us in the situation. So an addiction is something that meets three or more needs. If it meets all six, then like, it's a harder shift. But what I think with things that we're addicted to, if one by one you can start to switch those needs to be met in a different way or a healthier way, rather than trying to like make an enemy of the addiction or go cold turkey, because all addictions really stem from a lack of connection, right? Whether that be God or to ourselves or to something bigger. Um, and if they're meeting all these needs, but you can start to a bit like, what was that game? Guess Who? You can start to like flip down the pieces of the little people so that these needs you start to take away from the addiction, it will stop being addictive. Because suddenly actually, I remember the first time I was really head over heels in love, and I used to finish waitressing shifts and always want to go for a drink, like, because I resented being a waitress, right? I was an actress, why did I have to be a waitress and hang canapes out to people who should be giving me jobs? All right, it's my inner monologue. I was a nightmare. um and so, but I always wanted to go to the pub. I wanted to have a drink, right? But when I fell in love and my boyfriend was at home and we lived together, I didn't want to go to the pub because he was meeting more of my needs than the pub was. So when you can replace one your needs being met in one way with another, the addiction doesn't, and then you could get addicted to exercise, or you can get addicted to, looking after yourself, or you can get addicted to, you know, enjoying life more, nourishing yourself, nourishing others, being a gift to life. So does anyone have a question, or I'm really happy to do some like laser coaching or quick fire solutions, or support if anything, if anybody, and if you don't want to come on the camera, you can put it in the chat and I'm really happy to see how I can support you. Sure, Joe, do you want to say more about that?
Yeah, thank you. It's not going to bed early enough or early as I want to, and not resting enough in the day.
Who else can resonate with the late night? Well, just scream. Yeah, exactly. Just suddenly, oh, I'll get ready for bed and I'm in the bedroom. I'm like, just scroll. I'll just check in if there's any messages. So, um, what needs do you think it's currently meeting?
Time for myself, partly
Okay.
because
So is that
um,
connection?
yeah, um, And also because I experience a lot of physical pain and other symptoms, it's an avoidance of being with that, I guess. Like when I'm distracted and doing stuff, it's kind of easier. But if I'm just lying in bed trying to get to sleep, feeling rubbish, that's not very pleasant.
So maybe it's also meeting a need for significance because when we're engaged with the world, we have an identity of somebody who's active and doing things, and when we're in pain and we're in bed, often I guess there's not the need of significance is not being met there.
Yeah, I think it is that. I do think it is also just not wanting to experience the discomfort in my body, really, as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And absolutely, like that's a really real sensation.
Mm.
How how would you feel if what is the meaning that you give to the feeling of being in pain when you're in bed or discomfort?
Meaning, I guess. Well, I think I kind of, I don't know if this is answering the question directly, but I'm just tired and I resent having to rest so much and I want to, so much I want to do. I've been ill for a very long time now, so I'm kind of, there's so many things that I would like to be doing and yeah, contributing and yeah, having more of a life, I guess, but it backfires then because I don't rest enough and then I have more pain and discomfort and tiredness and then I can't do it anyway. So it's like, yeah,
And is this something you've known for a long time that this pattern doesn't serve you to work against it?
many, many years.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've got I guess you've got the certainty to know that you can.
Mm,
So you've got tried and tested patterns that show you that despite, I don't know, having the label of somebody with an illness,
mm,
you can still stay up late and you can still do X, Y, and Z.
mm,
So you've got the certainty there that you can get away with it to an extent in the moment.
mm,
And I guess you also have the uncertainty being met because it's like, oh, maybe I can do this and I can get away with it, right? I can cheat the internal system. And in the moment, you've got more significance because you're engaging and you're connecting. It's also meeting connection.
mm. And especially after a period of either intense struggle or haven't been able to do much because I'm feeling so bad. And then suddenly I feel better and it's like suddenly I feel really inspired. I have that classic kind of ME like pattern. And it feels really good. And it's like, oh, it's so nice to be, I can do stuff now. Or I feel inspired and I've been feeling really low and down. And then I get, really creative. And then there's a period where it's kind of healthy. And then it goes into this kind of ungrounded, like kind of adrenaline fueled thing. Yeah.
Right. And I guess then it's also meeting growth because you're in inspiration.
Spirals. Yeah. And I'm super sensitive. So when I'm like up that, like music is just incredible. I'm just at home and I'm kind of this amazing trip listening to music and it's just also incredible. And then yeah, it's this sort of upwards, unsustainable spiral that then inevitably crashes. It's all right. There's a lot.
So
You don't need to. This is
no,
um
no, it makes sense. And I think not necessarily the pain of being in bed, but like that, I think I'm seeing in the chat, like that spiral, and I recognize it in myself of like a second wind, right? Of like wanting to suddenly everything gets really exciting late at night. It's like kids have it, right? Like I remember lying on the sofa and pretending so my parents wouldn't see me and forget it was bedtime and I could stay up and watch the bill. So what I'm curious about is how could you frame you going to bed earlier meet your needs in a way, as many ways as staying up late does?
It's a very good question. I don't know. I guess I could try to maybe say to myself that I could have more of those times where I'm feeling inspired and creative if I allow myself to go to bed earlier, because I'll feel much better the next morning, as
Mhm.
opposed to being wrecked for 2 days because I've not stopped. No. Mm. It's also like it's a time for me as well because I'm a carer for my dad and it's really intense and it's like a full-on part-time job, and then I've got a son who I'm home educating, so there's all these like other people's, yeah, I'm giving a lot. And so
Right.
then it's like I need to sort of carve more time just for me, but there kind of just isn't really at the moment. So isn't that much. I mean, of course there is time for me, but not as much as I want or need. And then I sort of make it, but then with everything else, it's too much. Yeah.
Well, I would say it makes total sense with that perspective that you want to stay up, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious though, if you were to go to bed earlier and get up earlier, does it have the same toll on your body or is that more sustainable?
Yeah, it's more sustainable. And I'm waking up early, whatever time I go to bed. I'm not actually going to bed that late. But yeah, like 10:30 or something. But for the amount that I'm doing and my current state of health,
Mhm.
if I just lights off at 9, that would make a huge difference to me.
Okay, so then it's like how can you meet more needs by getting yourself into bed with the lights off at 9?
Yeah. And I just need to also start a lot earlier. Like I need to stop everything at 8 because it takes me ages to faff around. But often I'm still kind of doing stuff at 8:30 and 9, and then it takes me a good hour, and it's like just moving everything forward. But yeah. Um,
So because of time and I also want to take some questions, I'm going to make some suggestions if that's okay with
yeah, of
you.
course. Yeah, thank you.
So potentially it could be setting up things that are going to maybe meet your need for connection or certainty, maybe like baths or essential oils or things that treat yourself before bed. And then setting up things that you're really excited about that are more creative and growth and more significance driven in the morning so that you have a desire to meet those needs by going to bed earlier.
Hmm.
Right, so thinking maybe
The
setting up the
mornings. Yeah.
playlist that's the music you wake up to
Yeah.
so that you can dance around and have your creative outlet and your journaling time and your inspiration time in the morning. And
Yeah.
then meeting more of like love and connection and certainty and connection to yourself, or like I have a ritual around bed with prayer and gratitude, and that nourishes me in such a way that when I feel like I'm kind of falling asleep at the laptop or something. Like it's like, hang on a second, I'm missing out on that piece, and I love that piece. It's like my spiritual cake. So I want to not be that tired for that. So I that is a good hook for me to kind of go,
Mhm.
hang on a second, why am I watching ballerinas on Instagram? Like go do the gratitude piece.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. Yeah, the morning's just really like, oh, the boring stuff I have to do all starts in the morning.
Oh, right. Well, no wonder, because it's fun to stay up late and it's boring to get up. So if you can switch that round
Mhm.
so you get the fun stuff to look forward to.
So just carve out some time in the morning, maybe before I start all the really tedious admin jobs for my dad that I don't want to do.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you.
great. I
Thank you
hope
very
that
much.
was
That's really
helpful for
helpful.
some other people to think about how you prioritize things.
Thank you.
Um, okay, I'm just going to check this question. I'm going to take a few questions. I know we've got coming up to last 20 minutes. I'm going to frame how the course is structured in case you're interested in taking further. And and then I'm going to answer anybody else's questions in the chat because I know I asked somebody to hold on as we went through. So glad you like the material. Um, Okay, great. So you do, so what I'm getting, and for those of you in the replay can't see the chat, um, that there are lots of ways towards do a lot of things that are healthy and creative and in your practices. And they make and they meet they meet some needs, but they make up from the needs not being met, where you don't bring enough money to pay the bills, and you shift manifest towards avoiding manifesting the situations and relationships of the income that I need. Great. So when this is often um, the meaning that we give to what it is to make money. So the meaning that it seems that you'll meet, and like we'd have to work, deeper together for me to get this exactly for you, right for you. But often, to talk in broad brushstrokes, the meaning that you're giving around the healthy and the creative practices that you're showing up for yourself in is the identity that you have with yourself when you're doing those things, right? The meaning that is for you. I am a healthy creative person. I'm a fun person. I'm a free spirit, right? It's maybe meeting the need for variety. It's meeting the need for significance. It's meeting a lot of needs there. Whereas if you think about the need for money or income or stability, maybe there's a meaning around that being certainty, which means fixity, which means being trapped, which means being bogged down, which maybe means being uncreative or caught or held back. And this can tie into, role models and value systems that we were brought up around and things that we interpreted in the meanings we gave them then. And so when we want to shift something deep, like especially our relationship with money, which is can feel difficult because it's not physical anymore, it's an energy. Um, that's where we have to start to change our identity, and our identity of ourselves is the hardest thing to do. People will kill to maintain their identity. And so our identity of who we are with money, because for me, I had this huge block that if I had money, I'd be a bad person, right? I'd be a sellout, I'd be mean, I'd be selfish. I was actually far selfish, not selfish when I had less money. But that was the block I had around myself. So I was not prepared to change. And there was a huge amount of resistance, right? To doing that work. But the opposite turned out to be true, right? I could meet so many more of my needs. I could be more creative. I could be more fluid. I could be more living with more variety by having more money. And so, in a nutshell, it starts at looking like how can you meet the same needs that are being made with your creative practices? How can you also meet them with money? Like, how can you make making money creative? How can you make making money healthy? How can you start to approach your creative work in the same way as you create making money? So in the same way as like kids wants you can create star charts to get them to do their homework or they brush their teeth, we can play these games with ourselves and bring our inner child into the world of money, which can feel alien and hard and difficult and cold. But actually, like money can be like beautiful soft furnishings and spa treatments, and it can start if you start to feel like your identity with money is like that, or fun and playful. That's where you can start to allow it in, because otherwise we can block it, or we can make it wrong, or we make us having money wrong, or the pursuit of money wrong. Whereas money is just a tool, right? Okay. Difficult to reframe the old habits. It takes a lot of discipline. So I think what I found the most effective, because I feel like I've changed myself a lot over the years, like still maintaining my authenticity, but I feel like I have shifted a lot, which is why I'm able to help people, is because of immersing myself in things and I'm not doing it on my own. Like I didn't make change when I just watched YouTube videos or read books. Like as I think I've shared in one of the newsletters about this event, or one of my posts recently, when I moved out of London, I think someone had sent me a Deepak Chopra, like 21-day manifestation thing back in the day. And I'd written my first gratitude list and my note, like I had gone through the paper with my biro because I was so angry writing, I am grateful for my bed. give me. Um, because I was doing it on my own and I didn't fully understand it, and I wasn't in like a container or a space that then it's like when you go on holiday and then like before you go on holiday and somebody says, oh, could you do this, could you do that, can you, and you're like, oh, like capacity, like "Ugh," right, and maybe you're doing it because you're people pleasing, but everything feels like a kind of inside. And though, and for those of you who are driving and listening to this, I just did read signs. um and then when you come back from holiday, you're like, "What are you doing?" Sure, yeah, I'll do it. Hands up, I'll volunteer because you have more capacity, because you have not just looked at pictures or scrolled on Instagram of other people's holidays, you have had an immersion. So your nervous system has recalibrated itself. And so when we've got habits, it's about immersing yourself in an environment where you start to have people around you who are like the tuning fork for where you want to calibrate. So every time the habit starts coming back, or the thought form, because habits come off, actions come after feeling. So we have feelings, then we have thoughts, and then we have habits, we have actions. So if you're constantly having people around you or someone around you that is triggering a different feeling, then you start to have different thoughts who can also catch your thoughts and help you shift them. Then the habit changes because you start to have different thoughts and different feelings around what that habit is doing. And that's how we can shift them. And that's why it's really hard to do stuff on your own, and it's much, much easier to do it in a group, which is why I'm doing this group program. um, and I love doing group programs because there's like divine timing and people grow at different rates, and some people kind of like have a lot happen at the beginning and other people have it slightly later, but there's a community of people where you can all see a hive mind of people who are all tuning forking here. So that's why it's much faster and easier to move things forward when you're not just at home, like re-listening to the Deepak Chopra thing, writing angry lists. Um, I hope that makes sense. Yeah, the brain likes to do the easy thing because of certainty. So the thing that's easy, it feels clear. I know what that is, so I can do that. And then I feel certain about it, and certainty can link to significance. So it's like, yes, I can tick that box. Whereas people may have heard, like, you eat the ugly frog first. Big so I think I'm slightly plagiarizing that term, but it's like if you take the hardest thing that you've got to do in a day and do it first thing, then the day's better because you've already got a new identity of yourself as someone who can do hard things. So then everything else feels easier. Whereas if you push it down the to-do list or keep going, oh, well, I'll go running later, I'll go running at lunchtime, go running after work, and then you start to form the identity of somebody who can't do hard things. It's why people cold plunge in the morning, or, I mean, I like doing exercises. I go to CrossFit at 7 a.m. Like, I like coming back at 8 a.m. and feeling like I've had a really good workout. And like, even if the rest of the day goes tits up, I've already accomplished something and it's 8 a.m. And so things like that can start to help you operate in a whole different way just by how you frame the order in which you do things. Okay, when I have money, I spend it. When I don't have money, I spend it. So, what is the need in spending money fulfilling? So, uh, uncertainty, right? How are you going to make more if you keep doing it? Significance, potentially. Connection. Um, and depending on what you're doing with who, what you're spending on, if you're spending on other people, if you're spending it on yourself, potentially either growth or contribution. And it's also meeting certainty, because if it's a habit you're doing for a long time, you know that in that moment it's going to make you feel good. So you've got the backed up evidence. Now, slightly different from what I've been teaching today, we often have, in terms of, has anybody read the book Attached, about relationships, how you can be an avoidantly attached or anxiously attached or securely attached? Yeah, Claire has. So I think this is also often relates with how we are with money. And sometimes it's easier to see with money than it is with people. So when you have like I used to be, I've given examples of being like I was anxiously attached to money. So I didn't want to spend it because I was scared there wouldn't be enough. And in relationships, this can look like um the neediness, right? Tell me you love me. Do you really love me? You didn't say you love me this morning. Why did you leave the house without kissing me? Why hasn't he messaged yet? Like, okay, go on the stag do, but like tell me every 5 minutes that you're not doing anything you shouldn't be. Or like because there's a desperate need for reassurance, and it's like people who no matter how much you have like constantly checking like the bank balance online, or constantly checking the stock market or whatever it might be, or constantly like googling how much how much so and so's house cost, blah 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 blah, right? It's an anxious attachment to money. And then an avoidant attachment with money is when we're trying to get rid of it. We don't feel safe holding the energy of money. We feel unstable. So we feel more stable, more certain when we can get rid of the money. So we spend it. It's, people who win the lottery, if you don't do if you don't do work on your identity, and you don't do work on your ability to hold more energy, which is more money, then within 7 years, people have generally, through all sorts of conscious or unconscious ways, come back to the same financial situation they were before the lottery win, right? And there's been loads of studies into why that is, but I think it's because there is a certain identity we have around how much money we are allowed to have. And that can tie into things like, well, I can't earn more than my dad, or I can't show my friends up, or, um, you know, artists have only earned that amount if they've sold out, or whatever it might be. And so we start to create situations that reinforce those unconscious beliefs or reinforce this identity of who we are. Is this making sense? Right. So it's one thing for it to make sense here, and it's something else for it to change in how we show up and how we live. And that's why I created Not About the Money. And so we start on the 4th of July, and I'm going to just take a few minutes now to give you some information about it. I've also got a special offer if you want to sign up before Wednesday, which I'll share in a moment. So it's not going to be a huge group. I like working with people who want to change, right? Don't want to just procrastinate a course. Don't want to just kind of like sit on the sidelines and go, oh yeah, I liked Helen's blue shirt, but I can't remember what she said, and oh well, never mind. I want people who are hungry to actually implement the work, because that is how we all help each other. And it's not about being perfect. It's not about like knowing the answers. It's just about the desire to like make a change in your life, whether that be relationship or financial or how you lead. And there are two big kind of groups of people I've worked with over the last 20 years. One are creatives who of all kind of disciplines, or healers, who people who are very mission and values driven, which I think I am and have been about, but find being with money or the idea of making money is somehow at counter odds to this identity. And you can look for loads of evidence in the mainstream about that being true, but the mainstream is just a mirror of really what we're doing in here, right? We can always find the reticular activating system is what's actually going on in here when we're always looking for things that prove to be true. Then I work with people who have maybe a lot of external success, but very little fulfillment, and helping them understand how to really love and enjoy their life. And that might be making a lot of changes. Um, and the point where these two groups of people meet is what Not About the Money is about. Because unless we deepen into what's unconsciously driving us, where we're checking ourselves out, if we look at the outside first, we don't affect the real change that's sustainable. It's like crash diets, right? You lose the weight and then you put it on again. And I don't, and it's like why I don't think, kind of like get rich in 6 weeks or six figures in 6 weeks or whatever Facebook ads are running. Unless you do the inner work about money first, you can make it and then you can lose it or spend it. push it away. And it's the same with love or relationships. So this is around whatever areas you're looking at, and it can be all of them or just one of them, doing this inner work, which is my speciality. And then we look at leadership, and that doesn't mean being a boss or a CEO. It's like, how do you lead yourself? And then that can look like, how do you lead in life? So that might be just your family, it might be people you work with. And it doesn't have to be with like power over or influence, it can be through inspiration. Because I think at this time on the planet, we can see like all the institutions that we used to put a lot of power, give a lot of power to, a lot of respect to, we can see that they're crumbling. We can see that maybe we do not respect, we can't find a leader we respect, or we can't find someone we'd like to vote for, or we don't trust the health system, or it's crumbling, or whatever it might be. All the places where my parents traditionally just trusted, like that collectively is fading. And I think this is brilliant. I think this is brilliant because what it's allowing is for each of us to find our own leadership and our own power and our own sovereignty and our own authority. Because I believe, like, this creation that we're all co-creating in is like an orchestra or a fruit salad, right? We don't want everybody to go, oh, it's all about bananas or it's all about oranges or it's all about the violins. It's like, no, I'm a percussionist and I'm here to make awesome music. And I've got to listen to what everything else is going on, but I've also got to play to my own beat. And so being, for me, leadership is like really understanding your authenticity and your and what you want to do and trusting that your desires, not making your desires wrong, like your needs, like how, because I think we have these in us as a design. Like if you want to, like, the equivalent of be a violinist, play the violin. Like don't make yourself wrong and think, well, everybody else plays piano, I should be playing piano. Like no, like leadership is about being really clear in what you want to do with your life and knowing why. And often when we do the deep work before that, we can get really clear and really focused in a way that maybe we were procrastinating or eluded us before. And then we can also understand how that feels part of the bigger picture in life. And sometimes that can mean rocking the boat with our identity, with our friends, or with our family. And that's why we do it in group. And then that taking us into relationship with money and relationship with like, well, how do we make this sustainable rather than just money? But how do we make this something that can be a legacy that potentially lives past us? And this is the flow of the 10 weeks. And it's over the summer. It's not designed to be very like time heavy. It's designed to be very laser like and focused. Like we've been together for 90 minutes now. Hopefully, there's a lot of things here that will start to percolate. And then you have handbooks that are downloadable. You can read them on the beach. You can check them in on the airport. You can make it work around your schedule. Everything is recorded and in a portal, so you can log in at any point and watch the recordings. And then there's a live online group that's held all the time. So even if you can't make any of the calls, you can be watching them and then putting your questions in the group. You people can be sharing wins, they can be sharing struggles. And I'm holding all of that space. And it starts on the 4th of July and it goes to the end of August. So if you would like to join us, there are two ways of doing it. One is as the group, and I offer a payment plan. I'm just going to screen share. And the second way is the VIP version, which is when you get extra one-to-ones with me, and we have an in-person retreat day at the end of the summer. And the offer, if you sign up by midnight on Thursday, everybody will get an extra one-to-one with me. So that's where we can go super deep with exactly specifically what's working for you, especially if it's tender, it's sensitive, you don't want to bring it into the public space, or the space of the group. It's not in the public, it's not on YouTube or anything. Then this is the offer. So if you want to scan the QR code, because I've learned to befriend tech, then do so. And that page gives you all the information. It gives you the payment plan options. It gives you more information about the one-to-ones. If anybody I'm going to stay on now. So if anybody wants to look through it and stay on and ask me some questions or talk about their specific needs, then I'm going to stay here. Yes, and I often get asked, if I'm going to run it again or blah blah blah. And that's not how my work works. I wish it was, but I don't work to formula. I run things when I feel the push of like this is what's needed now. So the last time I ran a program was 18 months ago. This is my first one in 18 months. The previous one I ran was Catalyst. I ran that 3 times in a year, but then I've just been doing one-to-one work and smaller groups, um, and talks and things like that. And before that, I ran a membership for 3 years that was weekly. So I follow where I feel like my word would be God or source, the universe is calling me to go. So if you're feeling called, like leap in. Um, and I'd also say, like, if it feels like a stretch financially, that's great because if it's easy, if something's on the same level of how you're used to being investing in yourself, then it's harder to affect change. But when something feels a bit scary and I put my hand up, I walk my talk with this, I each year I invest at higher and higher level because I have discovered the kind of constantly just doing the free things, constantly just looking at the, oh, and how do I have the money back option, is cheating myself of the kind of the abundant person I could be, the person who knows how to create money, who knows how to use it wisely, who knows how to show up in the world differently. Took me, I had to get completely to my knees with money before I made that choice. And then that was the start of me living a very different life. So it's designed to be a stretch but I also design it to over deliver and get you the shift you're looking for, providing you're available to do your inner work. And I will go all in to make that happen. So does anybody, I'm just going to stop the share so I can come back and see the screen. Great. You're okay. So I'm going to put the link in the chat as well in case the QR doesn't work. Let me grab that. Mm. Or you can head to my website, which is helenmillar.co.uk. Go to events and scroll, or go to work with me and scroll down to not about the money, or here's the link in the chat. Um, And if you're watching on the replay, that offer stands to you till midnight on Thursday to get the bonus one-to-one with me. And you can look at the website. I've got a lot of testimonials on there, a lot of feedback. And as I said, like I've gone from living in a flat share, cycling across London to give my boyfriend a bag of lentils because he couldn't afford to eat, to owning multiple properties, having 3 businesses, having a team of people who work for me, um, loving my work, traveling. I'm about to go with a group of these 400 people to this adventure holiday. And I feel like I'm helping the world. And I partner with a charity called the Lucy Faithful Foundation if anyone's looking for something to support. And I'm running a half marathon, which I in the October to raise money for them. um, which I signed up for on a whim, and I'm now a bit scared because I'm not such a runner. So this is what the design is, and I'm not saying that. I don't say that to glow. I show that for somebody who came from an abusive childhood, who came as somebody with no self-esteem and used addictions to survive my life. Like I now design my life around helping people with the things that help me, and I've invested a lot of my money, time and energy in the last 15 years to get better and better at what I do. So the offer is if you sign up before Thursday, if you're doing the group course, you get a bonus one-to-one session with me in private. And if you're doing the VIP version, which is multiple one-to-ones with me and the VIP retreat day in person, then you would get an extra one-to-one session. Um, So whichever option you choose, you get an extra VIP call with me. and all of the calls will be recorded, and they will be a mixture of teaching and coaching in the group. And there is a real, I will say, is I really trust that whoever joins feels the people who are meant to be there. And one of the things that really warms my heart is that I get WhatsApp or Telegram messages of like people at festivals together or gigs together because they've stayed in touch years later. Often when I go to a festival, like people will jump out of a bush, like people stayed in touch years later, like gone on holidays together. Because I think when you're, I'm a particular flavor, right? And if you're attracted to what I'm doing and how I share the work I do, then other people do. Like there's going to be a synergy there. There's going to be a kind of collective soul vibe. So that is also part of the medicine. Great. Well, thank you. We're 7 minutes past 9. Thank you all for joining. I hope that you found this evening valuable, regardless of if you feel attracted to the course or not. If you do, first of all, thank you all for being here. Feel free to put in the chat something that you're taking away, just so you can, sometimes it's helpful to clarify for our own mind if there's a change or a choice or a thought or an action. For Joe, it might be like, I'm going to go straight to bed. Um, or whatever it might be, then that's really helpful to hear. Great. And then I'm just going to stay on the call in case anybody wants to hang around and ask any questions, and I'll stop the recording. Do the hardest thing first. Yeah. It's like the term is like eat the biggest toad first or something like that. Great. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, everybody. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. And for those of you who were on the recording, hello. Thank you for being here and awesome. And you can, if you've got any messages, you can email me at at helenmillar.co.uk. And my name is spelt with an AR, Millar. Great. Great. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on the call screener. Absolutely. Fantastic.